Alright, it's that time of year again where I rank all the parks I've been to so far. And this year I thought it'd be kind of cool if I had more of a visual aid, if I showed you the park map as well, because every single park I go to, I always try to make it a point to get a park map because, I don't know, they're basically free souvenirs. And these are all the park maps that I've collected over the years of going to different amusement parks. So without further ado, let's begin. At number 15 we have Arnolds Park in Arnolds Park, Iowa. I'm not even kidding, that's what the town name is literally called. It's literally called Arnolds Park. So I don't know which came first, the amusement park or the town. Probably the town, but this amusement park is actually pretty old, and I know I say this every single year, but I really feel bad for putting it this far down on the list because it's not a bad park per se. There's just not enough thrill rides to really interest me into coming back here. But I went to this park during 2020 when most other parks, including Valleyfair, were closed because you know what. And Arnold's Park was just, very nice to go to. It was very nice to go on a roller coaster again. Legend right there is an old wooden coaster built in the 30s, I believe, and it is still just buttery smooth, and it has buzz bars. It has like one good airtime moment on one of the small bunny hills, but yeah, that's pretty much it. But I also just love the setting of this park on Lake Okoboji, just right on the shore. It looks fantastic, and it's a very classic park. Like, there's just not really a lot of parks out there that have rides that are this old. Like, all the rides at Arnold's Park are like from the 1960s, 1950s, 1940s, even 1930s even. So if you're looking for a very authentic and very classic amusement park experience, Arnold's Park is a great park for that. As you can see, I don't really have a map for this park. I just kind of have this postcard. Alright, so number 14 is supposed to be Frontier City, but I don't have a Frontier City map because they didn't have them when I was there. So, anyway, let's just talk about Frontier City now. Okay, so Frontier City was an okay park, just like Arnold's Park. It's a great family park, like lots of family rides, and it's really geared towards just families, but they have a few fun things here, like Silver Bullet is a very fun Schwarzkopf looper, and then Diamondback. Oh my gosh, that is a really quirky arrow shuttle loop that opened way back in the day at, I think, Six Flags Great Adventure, but then it was relocated here. And that is a quirky ride. It's really janky, but it's not really a launch coaster because it kind of just pushes you through the dips in the loop. But those dips, man, have some crazy ejector air time. Like, those actually surprised me. Overall, though, the park just doesn't really offer much in terms of the thrill department. Definitely not the best Six Flags park, the worst one I've been to by far, but not a terrible park. But anyways, let's move on. All right, number 13, Mount Olympus, and I'm just going to say it right now, I am not really the biggest fan of this park for a few different reasons. And the first one, and I'll get into all those later, but let's talk about the positives, shall we? So Hades 360 is an awesome wooden coaster. I have heard it's gotten rough, but the layout, though, still amazing. Like, the underground tunnel, the inversion, the good drop, the pre-lift section. The pre-lift section is amazing. There's there's also Zeus, I think. Yeah, Zeus, which oddly enough is, I think, the smoothest wooden coaster there. It's a CCI out and back wooden coaster. It has some pretty good airtime moments too. That one's pretty fun, and Cyclops is kind of quirky. It's really short ride, a really weird layout, but I love it because it has this one little dive off the hill that gives some of the most best ejector airtime of any wooden coaster. So that was kind of surprising. Then Pegasus was just crap. It was terrible. But for the most part, this park has a really good top 3 for roller coasters. Now, those are the only positive things I have to say about this park, because get ready, because the rest of the talk here is going to be a little negative. So, Mount Olympus is one of the worst run parks I've been to. First off, just the atmosphere. I get what they're trying to go for, and that's like an ancient Greece type of feel, but the theming is terrible, if I can just say that. And also, the park just doesn't look good. It looks just so run down. There's not really a lot of trees, and there's barely any flat rides. It looks like garbage, you know? But also the operations are kind of sketchy. Now, I did go during 2020, so I will give them a little slack, but I've heard from so many people that it hasn't improved at all since I have left. So I don't really want to go back to this park, especially since Hades 360 is said to be even rougher than it was before. They have a severe lack for safety too. Like, I think on Cyclops, the first drop kind of runs along the pathway, and you can actually reach out and touch the roller coaster track, which you're not supposed to be able to do that, but you can. And I am shocked that this park has not gotten any lawsuits in the last decade, because it's just, ugh. Thankfully, this park is better. Lost Island theme park comes in at number, wait, what number are we on right now? Give me a sec. Number 12. Lost Island theme park comes in at number 12. And, you know, this park is just kind of hard to rank because it's still so brand new that they still have some stuff to, you know, kind of figure out. But for the most part, I really like this park. It's fun. It's not really the most flushed out park yet because obviously still new. But yeah, I've been to this park a few different times last year and this year. Last year was their opening season, as you can see on this map right here. And you know, I like how colorful this park is, especially because they don't really have any trees grown yet, so it's kind of like flat and it just looks kind of weird. But you know, over time, those trees will of course grow. But yeah, let's talk about the roller coasters here, starting with New Puko, because that's the first one I rode last year. And New Puko is, how do I say this? It's not like the worst roller coaster I've been on, but it was definitely not good. Somehow it was rough. Like, it wasn't like headbanging, like shaking from side to side. Like, it shook you from front to back. Like, it was a weird rattle it had that just gave me a headache, and I didn't really enjoy it that much. I could only ride it twice before I started to get actual headaches, and I had to take a break. But I rode Matugani this year, and Matugani is a phenomenal ride for what it is. Like, it's a really compact launch coaster, but you know, for being a compact launch coaster, it has a really peppy launch. It has some airtime moments, even some hang time, some quick transitions. It's a short ride, but you know what? It's a pretty good roller coaster. I will say this park does have an incredible dark ride. Is it called Volcano? Volcano? I can't remember what it's called, but whatever. It's the only dark ride at the park, and it is the best dark ride I've ever been on. And they did a really good job with it. Yeah, Lost Island theme park, I really hope this park makes it. I really hope they're successful, because this could turn out to be one of the, you know, better parks in the Midwest if they really, you know, do it right, and they're successful with everything, and get some new roller coasters even. So go out and support this park. Every time I go there, the park's pretty much dead, so that kind of worries me. But yeah, if you have an opportunity to go to this park, I recommend it. Alright, next up is Nickelodeon Universe at number 11. Now, this was actually the first park I remember going to as a kid. Like, I went to Nickelodeon before I went to Valleyfair. I feel like that's most Minnesota kids' first experience with roller coasters, is at Mall of America at Nickelodeon Universe. And just first off, this park map sucks. I'm sorry, this is the worst park map I've ever seen. It's just one paper, and this was back in 2020 when the park was like, you know, half the rides were closed, so it looked terrible. I love the park for what it is. I have so many great memories there, but I rarely ever actually go to the park because I go there for like 2 hours and I get bored pretty quickly. Because I've been on the ride so many times that it's just not as special to me as it once was. Like, when I was a kid, it was awesome seeing all my favorite Nickelodeon shows as a, you know, mascots and rides and all that kind of stuff. And all the rides, you know, when you're a kid are pretty scary, but now it's just kind of like a nice thing to do in the winter when I'm bored. But for as far as rides go, Log Chute is one of the best log flumes in the country. Like I have no shame in saying that. Like it is actually a great log flume. And Pepsi Orange Streak, you know, it's a really tame ride, but it's very long. Gives some great views of the park as well. Even interacts with the Log Chute, so yeah, that's pretty cool. Fairly Odd Coaster is one of the first ever Kurosawa spinning coasters, and depending on the weight distribution you find yourself in, you can either have a really good ride or a really boring ride, and I've had some pretty good rides on this one, so I love it. There's a few potholes here and there, but no big deal. They also got Avatar Airbender somewhere. I don't know if this is actually highlighted in the map or not, but I don't get the hype with that ride. A lot of people in Minnesota seem to love that ride. I think it's just okay. It's supposed to spin you around, but every time I go on it, it barely spins at all, so just kind of like, yeah. Then, of course, you got Rock Bottom Plunge, which is definitely the most sophisticated roller coaster at that park. Has a few inversions, a vertical drop even. That's a fun ride. Some people say it's unbearably rough. I disagree to an extent. If you sit on the outside seats, yes, it is pretty rough. But if you sit in the middle seats, it's at least tolerable in my opinion. As far as just the park atmosphere goes, it is phenomenal. Just having the park in the middle of the mall is just amazing. It's very colorful. There's bright colors everywhere. There's live trees in the park because the entire ceiling is made of glass, so the sun shines through, and that mixed with the plants, mixed with the pathways, kind of, you know, having some elevation to it, actually kind of fools me sometimes into thinking I'm in an outdoor park. But yeah, great park, just not for me as much anymore, unfortunately. But I still go there every now and then, every single year. So yeah, Nickelodeon Universe. All right, this one was kind of hard to rank because I actually like this park a lot, but whatever. Okay, next one, number 10, is Adventureland in Altoona, Iowa. And as you can see, this park map's an older one. It's from when it's before Palace took over the park, so it has their, you know, classic logo on there. But yeah, Adventureland. The first time I went there was 2019, and it was a fun time. I love Monster. Monster is one of my all-time favorite rides. But you know, it's just Tornado is not really that good, unfortunately, and Outlaw has like maybe one or two good airtime moments. And this park map is from back when Dragon was still there. Dragon was horrible. Phoenix is fun. I like Phoenix more than Fairly Odd Coaster, if that means anything to you. And overall, this park is great. I get bored here after about 2 hours though, kind of like Nickelodeon Universe, because all I do is ride Monster, because that's the only really good ride at this park, unfortunately. But they got some cool flat rides. They have Storm Chaser, which is a Mondial Windseeker, which is barely open, but I have ridden that ride before, so it's a pretty good one. The Space Shot Tower they have, it's not as good as, like, you know, other Space Shots I've been on, but it's still fine. This park has a really charming atmosphere. It's a very classic looking amusement park. Yeah, Adventureland, great park. A little hard to rank because I love it, but I also don't like it at the same time. So anyway, let's just move on. This may come as a surprise to some of you, but I got Michigan's Adventure at number 9. I don't know why I was so excited for this park. I think it was because, you know, it's just so hard to get to this park for many enthusiasts. Like, no matter what road trip route you take, this park is just so far out of the way. It's up north in the middle of nowhere, Michigan. Barely anyone gets to come here, and I think that was the reason why I was so excited to come here, because I don't think I'll ever come back to this park for a very long time, because yeah, it is so far out of the way. But I thought it was just so interesting too how this was the smallest Cedar Fair park. I was just really curious as to see what this park was all about, And you know, some parts I like more than Adventureland, but other parts I like Adventureland more than this park. But I think overall, I thought Michigan's Adventure was a slightly better park, mainly because of Shivering Timbers right there. I don't want to get into a lot of details about it because I kind of already reviewed that ride in my Michigan's Adventure video. Because if I keep talking about it, this video would be like super long. But yeah, it's basically a wooden B&M Hyper. It is phenomenal, great airtime. It's kind of rough in some parts, but overall, I thought the experience was tolerable enough to, you know, re-ride it over and over again. And it's a wonderful ride. It is really underrated. Like, I wouldn't call it elite, but I would say it's one of the best the best CCI coaster ever built. Some people compare this to the Voyage, which I haven't been on Voyage yet, so I can't really compare, but this is one of my all-time favorite wooden coasters. And too bad Wolverine Wildcat wasn't that good. Wolverine Wildcat was kind of weird, like, it's like half good and half bad. Like, someone took a good wooden coaster and meshed it with a bad wooden coaster. So, the first half is retracked with some Titan track, which is nice. Has some great airtime. The second half is just rough and no airtime, so I wasn't a fan of that. Surprisingly though, Thunderhawk wasn't bad. Initially, I was kind of worried about this one because it had the bulky over-the-shoulder restraints, but no, this is actually the best SLC I've ever been on. I don't know what they do to it, but it is tolerable. Like, yeah, it has some potholes here and there, but the whole experience is tolerable. And credit where credit is due, SLCs have really good layouts. I got Zack Zoomer over here, which is just a, CCI family coaster, nothing too special. Their Mad Mouse coaster, though, let's see, where is it? Yeah, their Mad Mouse coaster, though, I am not really a huge fan of Wild Mouse coasters to begin with, but the one at Michigan's Adventure, I can say with confidence that I actually enjoyed it, and it's definitely the best Wild Mouse coaster I've ever been on. Just overall, the park was nice. I could tell this was the worst Cedar Fair park, there's no doubt about that. But it was still a fun time. Shivering Timbers was well worth the trip, so if you're a roller coaster enthusiast, I would recommend going to Michigan's Adventure at least once in your life. I know it's super far out of the way, and to be honest, besides Shivering Timbers, the rest of the park is kind of meh, but you know what? I am glad I went to this park at the end of the day. Alright, number 8 is Worlds of Fun. Now, this does seem a little bit ranked lower than a lot of people would, given the parks I've been to. But I haven't been to Worlds of Fun in a while. 2021 was the first time I went there, and also the most recent time I went there. But this was a really fun time because it was my second ever Cedar Fair park, I remember. And, this is, it was very similar to Valleyfair, but it's a little bit different at the same time. I thought that was really interesting. I think all of these smaller Cedar Fair parks kind of have similar feel, but just slightly different aspects to them. I've been to Worlds of Fun, Michigan's Adventure, Valleyfair, but I need to go to Dorney Park to finish out all the smaller Cedar Fair parks list. But yeah, Worlds of Fun, it was a fun time. It was a busy Saturday, so I didn't really have time to ride all the rides many times, but I know I rode Prowler a few times and also Mamba. But Patriot, I remember Patriot. That was my first ever B&M invert. And you know what? It's fun. It's a really good B&M invert. But compared to all the other ones I've been on, it is the weakest one, unfortunately. Timberwolf, I really want to love Timberwolf, but my experience with it was not the best. I mean, the layout was pretty good. It had some solid airtime moments, but it was just rough, man. I mean, I don't know if I just had a bad ride on it. I know I sat towards the back. Maybe that wasn't really the best choice. But I only rode it once that day, unfortunately. So if I ever go back, I will try it again to see if I just, missed something the first time. And then Mamba. I always thought it was kind of funny how they had the Coasters Diner next to Mamba, but even though Mamba's in the Africa theme section. It just does not fit at all. But yeah, you know, Mamba was fun. This was before Mamba was trimless back in 2021, so I didn't get a trimless ride on it. So it was not as good as Wild Thing back when it was trimming. But I will say the Helix section is definitely a lot better than Wild Thing's Helix section. And I don't know, it's very similar to Wild Thing. I think Mamba is better now that it has no trims on it, but I need to ride it again. Boomerang is terrible, we all know that. Prowler. Now, Prowler was actually a really good GCI. I can't believe people don't ever talk about it because, I mean, it's like Mystic Timbers Jr. Now, I haven't actually been on Mystic Timbers, but you guys know what I mean, right? Very similar layouts, but Prowler is a little rough. It's got a little bite to it, but it's not like, you know, super bad. Yeah, that was basically Worlds of Fun. I didn't really get a good feel of this park because I was only there for like a day and it was really busy, so I was just kind of in a hurry. But I'm trying to get back here to ride Trimless Mamba and Zambezi Zinner, but every time I try to go, it's always closed because, you know, either I miss something or just stuff doesn't really line up correctly. But I will go back to Worlds of Fun someday. I promise. All right, I guess I have Valleyfair at number 7 then. This just barely beats out Worlds of Fun for me because, like I said, the last time I went to Worlds of Fun was 2021, so that was before Trimless Mamba, that was before Zambezi Zinner. But I got a feeling that if I went to Worlds of Fun again, like next year, I would rank it above Valleyfair because they're very similar parks, but Valleyfair has been kind of slacking in the last few years. This park is the 2021 park map. I never saw park maps for 2022 and 2023. So if anyone knows if they did actually print them for those years, I'd like to know because this is the most recent one I have. Not like the park has changed a whole lot or anything. This was the first year Valleyfair was open since the you know what happened. And you know, Valleyfair is my home park, of course, and so I feel like I can be critical about it. It's a nice park, but there's just some things about it that that kind of bother me. So let's just start with the roller coasters. Let's start with Steel Venom. Steel Venom is the best impulse coaster in the world because of the whole break, of course, and I just love the name Steel Venom and how peppy the launch is and stuff like that. High Roller is the classic wooden coaster in the park, which many people rave about for its, you know, airtime, but personally I don't really get much airtime on High Roller, if I'm being completely honest with you. Corkscrew, it's just Corkscrew, similar to the one at Cedar Point, and I think Michigan's Adventure has a Corkscrew too, but I think that one's a little bit different. But yeah, we got a Wild Thing now. Don't let anyone tell you that Wild Thing's a bad ride. If you're talking about hyper coasters, obviously Wild Thing's on like the lower end of those types of coasters, but just judging the ride as just a normal roller coaster, it's fun. Like the floater airtime hill after the first drop is fantastic, and I guess the only complaint I have about it is the Helix section is kind of drawn out. But at the same time, it gives you nice little aerial visuals of Route 76 and that end of the park. Also, this year, Wild Thing was running actually pretty decent, so the mid-course wasn't trimming hard really at all. And if you had a full train, you would actually get some airtime on those bunny hills, which many people complain about not getting airtime on those hills. So, and we got the Mad Mouse back there, which is a clone of the one at Michigan's Adventure, except Valleyfair's version is worse because it trims. And Renegade. Now, Renegade used to be elite. Like, Renegade used to be like one of the best GCIs. It's gotten significantly rougher over the past 2 years. I don't know what's happening. I think Renegade's just getting old, and it's not unbearably rough. It just has a serious bite to it now, and it's kind of a bummer because I can't really say that Renegade's an elite roller coaster now because, I don't know, like the roughness kind of takes away from the experience if it's too rough, you know? Like Renegade always was kind of, you know, a little rough, but that was to, you know, that wasn't bad rough. It was more like it was more of a good rough, if you know what I mean. But seriously though, if Valleyfair could just retrack Renegade, I think that would be phenomenal. That would just really breathe new life into that ride. And we also got Excalibur back there. Don't ever forget Excalibur. Excalibur is amazing. Some days I like it better than Renegade. I have no problem. I have no problem admitting that. It's basically take Magnum XL200 and Gemini from Cedar Point and mesh them together. That's Excalibur. It is janky. It has X. But that's the one thing that's holding this park back from being a really really good park. But besides that, it's a good park. I think you should visit Valleyfair at least once if you're not from around here. Renegade is great. Excalibur is awesome. Steel Venom Wild Thing. It's not a bad park, and it gets a lot of hate. Some of it's completely warranted, but some of it's just kind of not necessary. So yeah, for the moment, for the time being, I have Valleyfair ahead of Worlds of Fun. Yeah, at number 6, I have Six Flags Over Texas, and this is the 2019 map. I went there in 2021, but when I went there, they didn't have 2021 maps, so I got this one off of eBay. And then after I left the park, JB Thrills said to me that, hey, they just printed new maps for this year. After I left. What the heck? Six Flags. Okay, anyway, the park hasn't changed that much from 2019. Well, it kind of has, but not drastically, I would say. Six Flags has a lot of... It feels like I'm opening a coupon book every time I open this. Anyway, yeah, Six Flags Over Texas. I had a lot of fun at this park. It was my first ever Six Flags park. I'll never forget though, the first day I went there, I got rained out. Like the park closed because it rained out, but it was no big deal because I was still in town the next day and I had a platinum pass so I could get back in. And I really enjoyed this park. People say it's like the lower tier middle Six Flags park, but I would say it's upper mid tier Six Flags park because it's really, really nice. You can tell that this park has been around for a while, but they still have some pretty modern stuff like New Texas Giant, the prototype RMC, and a lot of people like to write this one off as not as good because it doesn't have any inversions, but to be honest, the inversions are like my least favorite part of RMCs anyway most of the time. I ride RMCs for the airtime. I'm just gonna say that. And New Texas Giant has no shortage of airtime. It's fun. Like I can't. That was my first ever RMC, so you like never forget your first, right? But Titan over here, the Juvenile Hyper. Yes, the mid-course sucks, and yes, there's barely any airtime, but that upward helix and just the ride as a whole, super intense. Like I almost blacked out on that helix right there. And then Shockwave. Shockwave is also super intense with those two loops, and it has some sneakily good ejector airtime moments. Let's see here. There's Lobby Bora, which was fine. It's unique. I'll give it that. Let's see. Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast. Remember when it used to go backwards? It was so fun. The vertical spike was absolutely terrifying when you're facing straight down to the ground. It's really sad that they switched the trains back to facing forward, because Reverse Blast was one of my favorite launch coasters. Batman the Ride's a Batman clone, but Batman clones are good. They're super intense, super compact. We gotta love them. I didn't ride Joker, because, I don't know, it's a 40 free spin, and it was closed, so you can't really blame me on that one. Judge Roy's Scream was terrible. It's like High Roller, but much, much rougher. It's also in a really weird section of the park. Like, you go under a tunnel to get there, which I suppose isn't that weird because at Valleyfair you do the exact same thing for Excalibur, but still, and that's kind of weird. Runaway Mountain is an interesting indoor coaster. It's the only premier coaster that doesn't have a launch. This park has a lot of history. Obviously, it was the first ever Six Flags park. The first mine train, I think. First log flume. I mean, come on. This park has a lot of history to it, and you gotta respect it for that. I definitely want to go back here sometime. Problem is, I live in Minnesota, so going to Texas is kind of a pain in the butt. But, you know, if you're ever in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, you gotta check out this park. Yeah, you will not be disappointed. Number 5 is supposed to be Carowinds, but I don't have a Carowinds map, so cut to B-roll. Carowinds is a very interesting park. It's a Cedar Fair park. It's a really nice Cedar Fair park, but it used to be a Paramount park. And I could tell because I've been to all the other Cedar Fair parks I've been to have been like the original Cedar Fair parks. Carowinds felt a little weird because it used to be a Paramount park. And I will say, Carowinds coaster lineup is very top heavy. Really, there's only 4 good roller coasters here. That of course being the Fury 325. That's a phenomenal ride. I have to watch myself though, because I will not shut up about it, and this video is already taking long enough, so for the time being, I'm just going to say Fury 325 is incredible. I loved it. I rode it over 20 times. It's fantastic. Copperhead Strike has a really terrible launch, but hey, at least the layout's pretty good, and it has some really cool transitions. Intimidator is a pretty good B&M Hyper. It's a typical B&M Hyper, nothing too special about it, but it has plenty of great airtime. And Afterburn is my favorite B&M invert. That thing is just amazing. It's super intense. I love the theme. Yeah, it's so good. But yeah, so the rest of Carowinds coaster lineup kind of falls apart after that. You have like what, Hurler, terrible wooden coaster. Vortex was super bad. I hated that ride with a burning passion. That thing really did something bad to me. They have a Vekoma Boomerang with, I guess, vest restraints, so that makes it a little bit better, I guess. Yeah, that's pretty much all I remember from Carowinds was the top 4 being awesome and all the other coasters just being meh. Carowinds has some charm in some areas, but for the most part, there are some parts of the park that just feel super corporate friendly. The front entrance is a beautiful front entrance. But hey, it's a great park. I think Cedar Fair still has a little bit of work to do to make this, truly an elite park. But for the time being, I would definitely love to come back there. Alright, now we're getting really serious. I have Six Flags Great America above Carowinds, and I don't really think anyone's going to be super mad at me for that. Against Six Flags. I feel like I'm opening a coupon book every time I open your maps. But anyway, Six Flags Great America doesn't really have anything to compare to Fury 325, unfortunately, but, it's not top heavy. Like, this park has a really well-rounded coaster lineup. They do have a B&M Hyper, Raging Bull, which gets way too much hate. I love Raging Bull. It's not the same as typical B&M Hypers, out and back layout, focusing on airtime. This is a Hyper Twister that still has really good airtime, especially in the first drop, but also some really fun twists and turns. I just love it. And Goliath, holy smokes, talk about underrated. Yes, it's short. Yes, it's not as airtime packed as like Steel Vengeance, but the first drop is an absolute gut punch. The stall is amazing. What's it called? The Raven Dive? I don't know. That's amazing. The turnaround's amazing. There's really good RMC. They got a Batman clone, which was actually the first one. Max Force. I only rode Max Force once because the Platinum Flash Pass only includes Max Force for one time, and the line was, 2 hours all day, every day. So, unfortunately, I only had to get one ride on it, but it was awesome. Like, I got a front row ride. That launch is an absolute banger, dude. Like, it's amazing. And I got an Intimate Impulse that's the clone of Steel Venom, but it's not as good as Steel Venom because there's no hold break. Oh, whatever. They got a 40 free spin again, also called Joker. Superman Ultimate Flight was my first ever B&M flyer, and it was fun. It wasn't as good as I was expecting, but the pretzel loop was as intense as people say it is. That was really fun. They got X-Flight, which is it's a smaller B&M wing coaster, but it's more compact than, like, say, Gatekeeper. It also makes more sense than Gatekeeper because there's no pointless airtime hills. They got Whizzer, which is a really unique ride. That was actually a really fun one, actually. I didn't ride Demon or American Eagle because American Eagle had a super long line for some reason, and Demon was closed, so yeah, whatever. But Viper, I forget about this one. So Viper is interesting. Like, I think it was a fine wooden coaster. It didn't have as much airtime as I was expecting. Again, maybe I just had a bad ride on it, but it had, like, no line, so there was no harm in doing it again. But I didn't because I wanted to go ride Goliath again. But anyways, this is the best Six Flags park I've been to, and it's probably going to be the best Six Flags park I've been to for a while. But yeah, I really enjoyed my time. I will 100% want to come back here. It's in Chicago area, so it's not too far for me. So yeah, I definitely want to go back and get some more rides on Max Force, Raging Bull, and Goliath. So excellent park. All right, we're getting some more hot takes over here, and because at number 3, I have Dollywood, which I went to this park in 2022, so Big Bear Mountain wasn't actually open yet, or it wasn't even announced yet when I went there. But they were actually building it when I was there, actually. So see if I can remember how to open this map. Give me a sec. There. Okay, here we go. Okay, so Dollywood was a wonderful experience. I'll never forget my first ride on Lightning Rod. RIP the launch lift hill, because dude, that thing was awesome. It wasn't like, you know, a crazy launch, but compared to an actual lift hill, it was much better. And I really loved Lightning Rod, but I also kind of thought that it was a little overrated. Like, the quadruple down was as amazing as I thought, but the rest of the ride, you know, in between had some good wave turns, but it wasn't as, you know, intense as some people were saying it was. I think the reason is because they actually slowed down the launch since it opened, so that was probably why. But now they put a chain lift on it, so it's not gonna be as good anymore. But yeah, it's still an awesome RMC. I would definitely say it's up there with one of my favorites. Let's see. They also had a Tennessee Tornado. It's their super weird aero looper, because it's the newest aero looper to ever exist, and it's buttery smooth, which is, you know, a blessing when you consider all the other aero loopers being super rough. That one was actually really fun. The drop in the tunnel was awesome. Gave some great airtime. It's a really short ride, but it was awesome. And Wild Eagle is a pretty good B&M wing coaster. It's a ginormous B&M wing coaster, and it goes on top of a hill, which I think looks pretty cool. And people say that it was rough. It was not rough for me at all. Like, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. Let's see, Fire Chaser Express, really unique and really fun family coaster. I got a kick out of it. And let's see, Thunderhead. That's a really good GCI. I would say it's better than Prowler, and on the same level as Renegade. But I really want to come back here because it was just a phenomenal experience. There was nothing else quite like it, besides maybe the next park I'm going to talk about. But this was truly a really good park. I understand fully why people say it's one of their favorite parks. Oh, I forgot Mystery Mine. Mystery Mine was okay. It's like a Wild Mouse coaster and a Eurofighter all in one, which is meh. But Dollywood was an excellent park. Absolutely need to go back here. That's right, I have Silver Dollar City ranked above Dollywood for the time being. And I always loved how Silver Dollar City did their maps. Like, it's like this old-fashioned newspaper. It's really charming. I always go here during Christmas time with a few buddies. In fact, the most recent visit I went to was this past year, and yeah, I went with a few buddies. It was some of the best memories I've ever made at this park, and probably one of the best coaster trips I made with friends just in general. So that was awesome. And just ask any one of us. We'll all say that Thunderation is one of the best. Is actually the best aero mine train ever. It has this like weird helix section that's really janky, and it's fun, dude. It's a really good mine train. Time Traveler is just, how do I describe this? Like, it is just so disorienting that I can only do it like 2 times in a row before being nauseous. It is just out of this world. I can't really put into words how crazy this ride is. You really have to experience it yourself to really get what I'm talking about. But the spinning, the launches, the inversions, all super good. And yeah, okay, Outlaw Run is an underrated RMC. Like, this thing does have some potholes, but it's intense. Like, it's really fast, especially towards the end of the year. And at night, any one of these coasters at night is gonna be spectacular, but Outlaw Run is my all-time favorite night ride. Like, it's insane how good it is. And you know, Powder Keg's also pretty good. Powder Keg is a really underrated launch coaster, I would say. It has a great first launch. It's really weird because it has like that old like premiere track from the Buzzsaw Falls, whatever it was called. But it's a great coaster. It has some good airtime moments. It got some weird twists and turns. I love it. And Wildfire is actually a pretty good B&M. It's butter smooth. It has some pretty intense inversions, and overall, good ride. And just the park as a whole is just so charming, just like Dollywood, but I would say this Cedar City does it a little bit better. They have some great cinnamon bread, which is also at Dollywood, but you can have apple butter at this park, which is definitely worth it. Love coming back here year after year and just making some really good memories with friends. But Cedar City is very similar to Dollywood, and I think for the moment, I like Cedar City better. Oh, who saw this coming? Yep, my number 1 park is still Cedar Point. And you know, some people are saying Cedar Point's not as good as it used to be now. And that may be true. I haven't been to Cedar Point since 2021. And that was my first ever visit to this park. I've only been here, I've only made 1 trip to this park. I spent a few days here. And let me just say, you never forget your first time at Cedar Point. You never forget that excitement you feel, because I remember driving up to the park feeling like super over the top excited because this is the roller coaster capital of the world, you know? And it was just such a special experience, you know, like something that just hasn't been replicated ever since. This park truly has a really good energy to it. Just being here with all the history and all the wonderful rides, you know, it makes me happy just thinking about it. My first ride was Millennium Force, and that was my first ever Giga. I had nothing else to compare it to at the time, so I thought it was, you know, just the best thing ever. And I still like Millennium Force. I think it's a really fun time, very timeless roller coaster. But yeah, we had some other roller coasters down here like Gatekeeper and Valraven, which were, you know, they were okay. Their first drops were very fun, but they're not as good as Cedar Fair wants you to think they are. Blue Streak and Corkscrew I can respect for the history. Same with Iron Dragon, but they're not really my cup of tea anymore. Oh, this is 2021, so Wicked Twister's still there. Wicked Twister was definitely not as good as Steel Venom. It was still fun to be in the back rail and get twisted up the backward spike. Now, towards the back of the park, that's where all the fun happens. Top Throw Dragster was closed when I went, so that was pretty sad. Rougarou is an underrated B&M floorless. I think Rougarou is really fun. There's no line, so it never hurts to just ride Rougarou in between lapping Millennium Force. Magnum, at first I thought Magnum was overrated, but after I rode it for like, the 5th time, I understood what they were talking about. And Gemini was also a fun time. Definitely tamer in comparison to all the other rides here, but anyway, let's get to the good stuff back here, because you all know where this is going. Steel Vengeance, man, what a ride. It gets too much hate now because it's too popular, but I thought Steel Vengeance was amazing. It was a long ride. It had amazing airtime packed into it. It had the inversions. It had everything you want in an RMC. It was on Steel Vengeance. Now, it does kind of suck that you have to go through TSA to, ride it, but it's worth it in my opinion. I really want to get back to ride it again. I can't put into words how awesome that ride was for me. And Maverick, mwah, that thing is that thing's incredible. Super compact and short, but it's a intense ride. Like those snappy transitions, sharp airtime hills. Gotta love it. One of my favorite launch coasters. And Cedar Point just has that awesome, original Cedar Fair Park charm. Or charm, I would say. It's on the coast of Lake Erie into this peninsula. It looks spectacular. It's Cedar Point, man. Come on, you know what I'm talking about here. But yeah, anyway, I think that wraps it up for me. Cedar Point, still my number 1, yet to be overthrown. I will go to Kings Island next year though, so we'll have to see if that beats this park. But yeah, that's pretty much all the rankings. It makes me kind of sad to see that other parks are kind of ditching the whole park map, physical park maps, because, they're all on the park apps on your phone now, which is convenient, but I'm really going to miss having these paper maps around, because, these things are just really fun to collect, just, free souvenirs pretty much, and, just seeing all the rides that were, new that year and stuff like that. It's nice to look back on these and just have these as a little memento. But yeah, that's 2023 parks ranked in my opinion. So if you guys liked today's video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.